Good evening, CMST320. My name is Brendon Favre, and this is my written communications checklist. A quick overview of what we're going to discuss this evening. I'm going to go over my checklist in detail. We're going to go over resources for resume writing and career advice. We're going to go over an example of a poorly written document, a well-written document, and then I will be going over my resume, highlighting some of the strengths and weaknesses based off of this checklist. All right, let's go ahead and start with the checklist. The first section I have is purpose. And under there is there a clear purpose behind this contact? Why are we contacting this individual? What is the reasoning behind it? The next is the communication relevant to the recipient. If the information isn't relevant to the recipient, then we're kind of just wasting our time. We want to make sure that the information pertains to them. Has a target audience been identified? We want to make sure whenever we're communicating or sending out a document or anything like that, we want to make sure that we're doing so to hit our target audience. We don't want to put the information out that's not going to hit our target audience. We want to correlate the information so that they'll be able to understand it better. Is the purpose of the communication clearly stated for the recipients? Why are we sending them this message? What reason is there behind it? We want to make sure that they know why they're receiving this. Next is going to be layout. What I like to do whenever I get a document is I like to scroll through the entire thing first. I like to look at the document, get an idea for the length of the document, how it's set up, how it's organized. Look at the headings, look at the different sections of it. It needs to be visually appealing, and it needs to look and read clear. The information needs to be easily identified. I don't want to have to scroll through the entire document to find the parts that pertain to me. By using headings, we can do that. If you're going to be sending this out to a lot of people, and you want to have the section headings on there so people can find out the information that pertains to them. The next is going to be the appropriate length. We're not writing a novel. We want to make sure that we include enough information, but not too much, but enough information that we're not going to have any questions. So you need to find that happy middle ground. Next is going to be the objective is clearly shown. What are we hoping to get out of sending this message to them? What is our objective? What are we trying to accomplish by doing this? Actions required are clearly displayed. If we need them to do something, what do we need them to do? What are we requesting from this individual that we're sending this communication to? Deadlines or urgency are clearly stated. We don't want to beat around the bush. If we need something by a certain date or we need it as soon as possible, it needs to be clearly stated. If you need a sales report by Friday, you need to say, I need the sales report by Friday or as soon as possible. You don't want to say whenever you can get it to me or something like that. They might not be able to sense the urgency through the written communication. And a point of contact needs to be clearly stated. Usually this is going to be at the bottom of a document. Whoever that point of contact might be, it needs to be clearly stated, whether it's a phone number, email, you need to have your name on there, all that kind of stuff, just in case the recipient has any questions, they're able to contact you with those questions or answers. Next is going to be words. Are the words appropriate for the audience? We don't want to use a lot of technical terms. We want to use terms that people are going to understand, but at the same time, we don't want to dumb it down for them and make them feel stupid. We want to cater to our audience. If they're not tech savvy, then we don't want to use a lot of technical terms. We're going to want to use it in terms that they're going to be able to understand. Easily understood. Is the document easy to understand? We don't want to use too big of words that people might not understand, or we don't want to overcomplicate things. Fluff free. One of the things I cannot stand is when people have too much filler in there trying to take up space. It's just a waste of everybody's time. By eliminating the fluff, you're saving my time and you're saving your time. So let's eliminate the fluff. Spell check and grammatically correct. Yeah, these go hand in hand. You don't want to sound incompetent in the document you're sending out. You want to make sure you run a spell check or a grammar check through it. You want to proofread these things. You want to sound professional, and spelling errors and grammatical errors are one of the top ways to ruin a document. Proper labeling. This goes as what I discussed earlier, is different sections of the document should be labeled properly. So if you're sending this out to multiple people, you want to make sure that they're able to find the information that pertains to them. And claims are backed by evidence. We do this with our RRPs each week. we support it with the text. We support our claims with the text. It should be the same way with this. We need to have evidence to back our claims. Next is going to be clarity. Is the communication directly focused on a single, easily identified purpose? You don't want to send a whole bunch of stuff. You don't want to overwhelm somebody. You don't want to send them, 5 or 10 different things. Just focus on one single thing. What are you requesting from them? What is the purpose of this communication? The next being is the language used consistent, precise, and concise? We want to make sure we're using the same tone throughout the document. We have the same flow throughout the document. We don't want to use heavy tech terms in technical terms in the first part of the document and then dumb it down in the bottom part. We want the document to flow nice and smoothly. Has it been proofread for tone, errors, lack of clarity, and appropriateness? Anytime we do a document, we should go back over it again to make sure that there's no errors in it, that we understand the message we're trying to get across. It seems appropriate to us. And one of the hardest things for me is tone, is being able to judge the tone of a document. But it's very important. We don't want to come off as hostile or rude, especially if we're requesting something of somebody. We want to come off as professional. Next is this the best technique or style to reach my audience? Again, we have to cater the message to our audience. If we don't cater the message to our audience, then the communication might not come across. And if the receiver isn't understanding the message, then the message is lost and there's no point in the communication at all. Before sending something, I always like to write at least one draft. Before you send something, it's important. Once you click that send button, you don't get it back. So by writing at least one draft, it gives you time to read it a couple of times. You can always improve on something. You can always make something better. So go over it at least once and find a couple of ways to improve it. And, you want to make sure you proofread your message before you send it. Again, that goes with the grammar and spelling checks. You don't want to have any spelling or grammar errors in there. You want to make sure it sounds professional. And if necessary, have somebody else read the document. I do this quite a bit, as I'll have somebody else read a document, primarily to tell me the tone of the document. Since I have such a hard time with that, I want to ensure that it's not coming off as rude or insulting or overbearing or anything like that. All right, we're going to get into an example of a poorly written communication. I found this one on the internet, and it is very poorly written. This is an email for a individual looking for a summer internship. We'll start at the beginning on the to line. They address it to Bob Pope. If this was a prospective employer, or if I'm applying for an internship, I would probably say Mr. Pope or hiring manager or something along those lines. I'm going to address them by their appropriate title. I don't feel, as Bob Pope is his name, I don't think I would refer to him as Bob. I would probably go with Mr. Pope. The next line, the from line, that's fine. It's their name. The subject line, job ? If I were to receive this in my email, I would probably delete it just off of that. It just is not a good subject line. You're not giving any information. Job ? That could be anything from spam to a Nigerian scammer to who knows what else. Your subject line should basically summarize what the message is about. So it should read something more along the lines of summer internship, something like that, or Chamber of Commerce event, summer internship. A little bit more, information in there, so they might be able to jog their memory a bit. All right, next is going to be the greeting. Hey, Bob. That's very, very informal. You don't know this from reading this email. You don't know the guy very well, so you guys aren't old buds, so you want to be as professional as possible. This is your prospective boss here, so you could go with Dear Mr. Pope, or Dear Sir or Ma'am, Dear Hiring Manager, something along those lines, and then the body of the message should be underneath of that, not online with it. We talked a couple of weeks back about the Chamber of Commerce event. I was the one looking for a summer internship, and it had a zit on my lip that could have passed for a cold sore. LOL. Phew, it was not. You're probably like, what? Maybe that helps you recall, maybe not. This is just, you're starting out this email and it just sounds extremely incompetent. This sounds like it was written by a teenager that doesn't really know what they're doing. This is where proofreading would come in handy right here. Have someone else read your document. It's very, very unprofessional. Using terms like LOL, what, stuff like that is very, very unprofessional. The next being not completely important, I suppose. I'd really like to come work for you at your IT business. You seem like a cool person to work for. I liked your striped pants. Again, very, very unprofessional. You're telling him you'd like to come work at his IT business because you liked his striped pants, and they seem like a cool person to work for. You want to clearly state why you would want to work for that person in a professional manner to gain IT experience, along those lines. I'm available to start working Monday, but I'm taking my driver's test in June and have to study and go on an hour and a half. I have to go an hour and a half away to take it at an easier place because I'm not that great of a driver, so I'll miss a few days. Again, very unprofessional. You're telling this is your prospective boss that you can start on Monday, but then you're going to need some time off. Because you've got stuff to do. You have to go take a driver's test. It also shows a great deal of unprofessionalism because you're taking the easy road here. You're telling this guy that you're driving an hour and a half away to take a driving test at an easier place, that you're looking to take as many shortcuts as possible. That's not really something I would look for in a prospective employee. I want a hard worker. Also, why it's going to take him a couple of days to drive an hour and a half, I'm a little confused by that. I'm also going to the beach with my friends for a week in July. Again, it seems more like this person is trying to come up with excuses to not get the job than actually get the job. An employer, especially first starting out, is not going to cater to you, especially because you want to go to the beach and hang out with your friends. That's not a good reason for time off of work. If you're going to miss the entire summer having playtime, then you're not going to get much out of a summer internship. Next being, my grandmother has bad gas. OMG, it's terrible. And sometimes I have to take her to the doctor. Okay, that's not important in this conversation at all. It's just rambling information. Using terms like OMG and cap locks is extremely unprofessional. And in some cases, using cap locks, it can come off as hostile or confrontational. I've attached my resume. It's thebomb.com. Very unprofessional. Let me know if you have a job opening for me. I can't wait to play on some computers. If I don't respond to your email, I'm always on Facebook or Snapchat or Insta. Again, when I read this, it's extremely unprofessional. One, you're telling this guy you want to play on some computers. I guess in the IT field that could mean you want to work on computers. If I read that, you're here to work, not to play. And then you're telling this individual that if you don't respond to their email, then they need to contact you through a different means. You're looking for this individual to give you a job. You need to be responsive to them. And then in their closing, peace out and their name. Again, peace out is not an appropriate closing for this. An appropriate closing for this would be thank you for your time, very respectfully, something along those lines, and then the name should be underneath of that closing. All right, next we'll get into an example of a well-written communication. This is an example of a letter of apology. I wrote for a professional writing class last semester. This is written in a letter format, and we are the manager of a company called the Swimming Pool. As you can see at the top, we have our name, we have the name of the company, where it's located, and the date. Below that, we have the recipient's name, so it's clearly stated who this is for, who this is to, so there's no confusion about that. If we have their contact information, we can put it there, but it's not necessary. And then we start the letter off with dear and the recipient's name. Dear sir, ma'am, dear Mr., Mrs., dear, to who it may concern. I'm not a big fan of to who it may concern. because it's not personalizing the information, but if you don't know who you're directing the message to, that will work. In the first line, we want to summarize, or we want to show them that we understand that their frustration. We want to show that we can relate to them, show them some sympathy. We're sorry to hear about your lost contact lens. As a contact lens wearer, I know how frustrating and inconvenient it can be to lose a contact lens. We're showing them our human side. We're showing that we can relate to them, and we're being apologetic towards them. Next would be, according to your letter, your contact lens went missing on 9/29/2018 around 10 a.m. while you were using our facility. You stated that you think the contact lens came out while you were doing laps and you were near the north end of the pool in lane 5. You're requesting that the facility pay the $75 cost for the replacement contact lens. So basically what we're doing in this paragraph is we're summarizing all the information. That way we're saying this is what happened, this is what you want us to do, this is the information we have, and if we've somehow received this wrong, then they can come back and say, nope, you're not understanding this right, this is what's wrong with this. Next is is what we're going to do for them. So our contract that we require all members to sign states that we are not responsible for lost or stolen personal items. We recommend that while using the facility, you secure your personal items in the provided lockers. This is telling them what we're going to do for them. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to cover the cost of the lost item, but we're telling them, or even reminding them in case they forgot, that we recommend you secure your items in the provided lockers we have for you here to prevent these types of issues from happening. We're not just being dismissive of them. And then next, we want to try to give them, we want to give them another avenue of approach that they could take. We don't want to just slam the door and tell them, sorry, you're SOL. So, however, your insurance may be able to assist you with some or all of the replacement costs associated with your contact lens. That would be another avenue for them to explore on their own. They could, contact their insurance company and see if that would be something. And this last part, it's not required, but we're offering them something as compensation, or just to show them that we're apologetic and that we understand where they're coming from. I'd like to offer you 25% off of our new swim goggles with waterproof headphones. They retail for $29.99 in our store. Please let me know if I can be any further of assistance. We're offering them a solution to the problem. Hey, maybe if you wear some goggles, you won't have this issue again. We'll even give you 25% off of the goggles, and let us know if we can be any further of assistance. If they need us to write a letter to the insurance or anything else like that, we might be more than happy to step in and do that. And then we have our closing. We have sincerely, your name and title at the bottom. I feel this hits just about every part of my written communication checklist, and it's a well-written document. The next thing we're going to go over is the resources for resume writing and career advice. The first source I really like, it's WorkSource Washington. This is a great free and local resource. They have one here in Spokane, but it actually encompasses all of the Northwest. I believe it covers Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Western Montana, I believe. They have a lot of awesome stuff. They have workshops there. They have resume writing services. They have job boards and job postings. They have labor market statistics. Just because you're in Spokane, the job might not be in high demand over here, but they can provide you information for demand in other areas. So if you're willing to move, where you would be in demand, or where your services could be, or where you could get paid the most for whatever skill set you might have. The next is going to be Hire Our Heroes. This is a free veteran resume writing service. They have a lot of other veteran resources. They have job boards, they have interview prep, they have resume services, just a lot of different stuff you can get in there. It is only for veterans, unfortunately, but it's a resource out there. Next is going to be LinkedIn. LinkedIn is actually very fantastic for networking. They've got a lot of resume help on there. They've got job search tools. Networking is becoming more and more important, especially with social media and stuff like that. So having this resource, you can start building a network. You can start, a lot of the times it may not be what you know, but who you know, getting your foot in the door, stuff like that. So it's a great tool for that. They do have resume writing services on there as well, and they have a really great job search app that you can download. Next being Monster Jobs. Monster Jobs I haven't used in quite some time. But they have a really good resume writing services. I believe you have to pay for them, but you're going to have a more professional sounding resume. It's not going to be one of these free sites where they're just like templates or, plug in your information. These will be, a resume that's catered to your skill set that somebody will write, customized for you. They have a lot of job postings on the site, and they also offer a lot of career advice. So it's another resource to check out. Yep. All right, and last we're going to go over my resume. I understand this looks kind of odd at the beginning. I had to take out all my personally identifiable information from here. So normally this would be filled with my address, my phone number, email, that kind of stuff in there. I really like this document. I like this resume. It's more of a all-encompassing resume. It's everything I had done in my 10-year career in the military. It just kind of goes over everything I've accomplished, everything I've done, and this is more of like a master resume that I can use to cater towards specific jobs. I can just come into this resume and I can pull what information pertains to that job. Some of the strengths of this document is it's all-encompassing. It highlights everything I've done in my career. There's not really anything in here that this is all information that I can use when I'm looking for jobs, especially the type of jobs I'm looking for. I can kind of just pull the information from here and plug it into whatever resume I'm building for that particular job. Another thing I did like about this resume is it shows career progression. As we look here, it starts off as a cannon crew member and then goes into a team leader, into a squad leader, into another squad leader position, into a platoon sergeant position. It shows that I wasn't stagnant in my career. I moved up. I was successful in it. I moved forward. And one of the last strengths I like about it is I think it's got a professional look to it. I like how everything's categorized. It's broken up. It has headings and titles above everything. It's well sectioned. I think it's a well organized document. Yeah. And next is going to be the weaknesses of this document. So the biggest weakness I found with this document this resume is it's not geared toward a single job. Again, this is more of a master resume that just goes over everything I had done in my entire career. So it's a little bit longer than it normally should be. And there's a lot of stuff in here that seems kind of all over the place. But again, I usually just pick and choose what bullets I need out of here when I'm making a resume. Another big issue I've had with this resume is the terminology I've used in it. It's really military written. There's a lot of stuff in here like terms like NCOs, M4, stuff like that my civilian counterparts might not understand or have any clue what I'm talking about. Top Gun honors, they probably don't have any idea what that would be. They wouldn't really be able to correlate the information. So when I take these bullets out, I have to reword them into terms that they can understand. And lastly, with this document is it's over 3 pages, which can be considered long. In the federal sector, usually the resumes run quite a bit longer, 5 to 8 pages. But for a lot of other jobs and advice that I've gotten off of this resume is that it should be preferably 1, no more than 2 pages. And I'm sitting at almost 4. So again, I would shorten this up and just use the pertinent information that I would need for that job. If I'm looking for a project management position, mounted patrols and stuff like that probably aren't going to be too helpful in that field. They're probably not going to care what I did during the elections. They're not going to care about that kind of stuff. They're not going to know what M4 qualification ranges are or how it's going to, pertain to them or anything like that. So again, it's going to be gearing this toward your audience. This is just kind of a blanket, and it's not specified to any certain individual. Thank you for watching my video, and have a good evening. Thank you.